Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Monday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Monday, June 10th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today is 4 of Cups in its reversal. I am not surprised to see this card today. A lot of the work that we've been seeing over the last few days has been oriented around journey affirmation. So moving forward on your own personal journey, what we are seeing that's happening for a lot of the energy in this modality right now is potentially recognizing levels or degrees of healing that you may not necessarily have anticipated moving forward in a certain direction. Why? Because we've been recognizing that for a lot of the energy right now, moving in this frequency, what we've been recognizing and identifying is that path work wherein when we move towards our manifestation goals, a lot of that work is effectively relinquishing the energetic outcome. That is that movement of moving with intentionality. Masculine and feminine energy right now, deep in the heart of the divine union frequency. This is a lot of the affirmation of your own personal path work, because one of the things that we're seeing right now, and this is why we even see that time is almost moving like much more rapidly for a lot of the energy deeper in the heart of the frequency right now, is it's that sense or that situation wherein you feel that sense of wholeness in moving towards something and feeling that full sense of confidence as you move forward in that way. Now, this energy doing so, what we appreciate is that's not the energy that feels like they're trying to move towards a goal outside of their own self. That is the energetic path point that we're seeing that a lot of the energy deep in the frequency is experiencing, wherein that's that sense of finding one's own self, moving with one's own intentionality, and that modality or that choice of effectively or energetically feeling like you're coming home, if you will. That's that moment that almost amplifies that feeling of energetic wholeness that we're seeing deep in the heart of that frequency right now. Masculine and feminine energy, this isn't something that we see was something that just kind of coincidentally stumbled upon it. This is the work of the energy that has been doing that work on the self to such a degree that they're able to have their own expression of their self effectively draw towards them the energy that is similarly aligned in that same way. So what we're seeing effectively for a lot of the energy deep within the heart of the divine union frequency right now is that feeling of energetic conviction. It's going to feel like that sense of energetic certainty, because that is not the energy that is moving with that sense of inevitability, feeling like that inevitability is occurring around them. That is the energy that feels like that inevitability is the amplification or the broadening of their own individual choices to move forward in that way, right? This could even be the amplification or articulation of a lot of energy when it's like that sense or that space where it's like you create a hobby for yourself. You do something over and over and over again. And when you first begin doing it, it feels like it's difficult, but then it becomes a part of you so intrinsically that it almost becomes your superpower. And so we see even now that for a lot of the energy right now, that feeling not only amplified by the internal navigation point in terms of how you've been following your own path, but feeling like it's almost helping you or building you into that point of having been able to build with another. That is that feeling of energetic wholeness, because these are energies that even when they're not necessarily in perfect agreement, they recognize and identify that their direction is the same. They recognize and they identify that they are of one mind, right? And what we like about that idea of a one mind is a one mind doesn't singularly focus on a particular thought. A one mind has an ability to be able to navigate, to be able to think about, to be able to discern. And that similarity, that sense of not only feeling like you're in that modality wherein you yourself can do that, but you feel like you found a counterpart that you find that same ability of communicating with. You recognize that even when you're in dissimilarity, you are of one mind. It almost feels like that sense of energetic easement. So a lot of this energy this week is potentially going to be the amplification or the selectivity of decisions. This is taking some of that pickiness that we often start to experience in Gemini season, but utilizing it to good use, because I told you it can create a little bit more of that temperamentality, right? It can create a little bit more of that frustration point, but it can also lead to a little bit of that pickiness, helping to be able to really refine and amplify upon what your manifestation goals are at this time. This is why we even recognize and identify that a lot of work that we've seen over the last week, even for the energy that's just coming into the divine union frequency, is working through that sensation of nitpicking upon their manifestation goal, because this is that kind of work is very well adapted to this type of energy. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into the divine union frequency, what we effectively or energetically are seeing is this modality of that sense of discernment. As we identified last week, a lot of energy potentially meeting or encountering counterpart energy, that while your manifestation goals may not necessarily feel like they're completely in perfect harmony, there's enough of that overlap there. There's enough of that mixture between what one person desires versus another that is matched with an openness of communication, an ability to articulate upon what your dreams and manifestation goals are. When you encounter that space of openness, that is that moment that feels like creates that sense of introspection, because these energies, what they're really doing is via the connection with the counterpart, and recognizing a place of open communication with the counterpart, that ability of discerning, of interrogating one's own self to identify the difference between what feels like it is in like the intentionality and the heart of your manifestation goal versus what may have been a perception or an expectation of how that manifestation goal was going to form in your own experience. That is why this energy right now is utilizing such a high point of introspection, because that is that moment that is helping to recognize the difference between what we anticipate versus what we receive, and allowing that internal guidance system to help us recognize what feels like it is in alignment to our own manifestation goals versus what feels like it takes us too far off of our own path. Continuing for the energy and separation right now, a lot of that energy and separation is potentially stepping back from some situations and circumstances. And we did recognize that there were two different modalities wherein this was occurring. One is a little bit easier than the other, because in one of those modalities right now, we see and identify and recognize that one of the things that we're seeing is either these are situations and circumstances wherein we are seeing that even in that openness of expression, we may have recognized energy that is facilitating this work, that have recognized that their own manifestation goals, they don't have that overlap, right? They just simply don't have that place where they converge. And even in that modality of recognizing and identifying potentially that you don't share the manifestation goal of another, these are energies that appreciate and see the qualities and characteristics of what they would expect and anticipate from the ideal energetic counterpart in the way they are communicating forward upon those manifestation goals. And that ability of recognizing and understanding why that sense of union might not be possible, that is almost allowing the energy, even if they're stepping away from each other, to do it in a way that feels like it is restorative. It feels like it is healing. It feels like it is healing even as they separate, because these are energies that encountered and navigated with each other with mindfulness. And it's almost that moment of being able to put the past path work into practice, and via seeing the results of how someone can receive it in a positive way, have effectively affirmed the journey that they're experiencing even as they encounter one another in that way. The other possibility that we're seeing that may be a little bit more of a hardship right now for some of the energy moving in this way is if these are spaces and places wherein new energetic connections were forming, potentially built on a lot of articulation on the past, potentially even a matching of perspective on how you're looking towards the past. But if that isn't being similarly amplified by an ability to look forward, by an ability to articulate upon what one desires in the future, that is the energy that isn't necessarily trying to stay or wait or be patient to see if that manifestation goal will emerge in time. That is the energy that's not building upon potentiality or assuming, but rather accepting the reality of circumstances and moving forward. And that ability of doing so in itself feels like it is an energetic breakthrough point, because that is the energy that is recognizing the no that feels like it's moving them closer to a yes. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Second card in our 5-card spread for today. So even for the energy that is in separation, this is a moment that feels very potentially empowering if this is occurring, because this isn't a moment that we see that the energy is staying in place if they're not seeing something that isn't moving in the directionality that they would aspire and desire. For feminine energy, this feels like a moment of the feminine truly grasping and putting that practice, putting that energetic standard into practice, particularly if these are situations where from the past the feminine energy has been affirming to themselves the ability to recognize and to hold forth on the lesson that receiving a manifestation goal from a masculine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender but what it feels most aligned to, is not to be a metric of it's not to be something that is to be anticipated upon. It's not something that one needs to work towards. This is the feminine energy that is continuing to affirm that the ability to articulate upon a manifestation goal must be a requirement in order to facilitate a healthy energetic connection with masculine. So if this is feminine energy that is stepping away from masculine energy because they're not seeing the ability of the masculine at this time to be able to present what that manifestation goal is. This is the feminine recognizing there could be a whole robust amount of different array of reasons as to why the masculine energy may be in that modality. But this is also the feminine energy that's not taking the time to try to discern what they are to themselves. They're just accepting that that's where they're finding it, that is the energy of a confused masculine, that for one reason or another does not seem to have an ability to express what their manifestation goals are. And that's the feminine that feels like they're moving away from something, is them saying that they're moving towards masculine energy that is confident about what they want moving forward and is able to articulate it with the feminine. So even in that moment, the feminine feels validated. If these are energies of feminine that have experienced the quality and characteristic of a masculine that was able to articulate so, it just so happens that they don't have the same manifestation goals. This is feminine also feeling validated on that pathwork, because this is feminine seeing the qualities and characteristics of what they're trying to manifest just with someone who doesn't share the same manifestation goals. So that feels like that's not a disappointment point. That's feeling like you're halfway towards your manifestation. While for masculine energy right now in separation, again, if these are spaces and states where in masculine energy you have come through your own journey of self-discovery and your own work of vulnerability to be able to articulate, to amplify to feminine what you want, you are also seeing one of two different modalities. These energies are very, very harmonically balanced right now in this Gemini season, because this is either a masculine that's seeing a feminine that they're openly expressing what their manifestation goals are. And even if their manifestation goals aren't the same thing I just said for the feminine applies to the masculine. This is a masculine feeling the validation point and having experienced something and seeing how easy it can be to recognize that moment of moving away from each other in peace and not hostility, because that's that moment that it feels like you're giving each other the gift to find what it is that you're seeking. While for the other part of the masculine energy right now, if this is a masculine that brought forth the desire to know the manifestation goal of the feminine, and the feminine seems reluctant or resistant to be able to articulate what that manifestation goal is, that is the manifestation of a masculine that is effectively seeing something in the feminine wherein they may feel like they're too connected to the past. That's a feminine that may be putting a lot of work of introspection into their journey thus far, but they're not ready to let go and move forward. And so even here we see that there is that degree of optimism that masculine is holding, because that's that space of feeling like at some point when the feminine energy is there, they'll be ready via being able to articulate to the masculine what it is that they're truly seeking. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is that pickiness. If these are energies that have recognized, that have articulated their manifestation goals, and even if they're not perfect, there's a little bit of that dovetailing. The two circles that have that moment of merging. This is the energy that's looking at the space in between and trying to see how much flexibility is there. If there's something there that can be broadened. If there's something there that, again, and this, I have to stress this. This is not energy that is moving towards each other with a sense of expectation or false potential. This is the energy that is accepting what that space of overlap is. They're building a sense of, that's why even now, this is the energy that's doing that work and assessing and saying, even if there's potentiality there for something to grow bigger, is there a satisfaction point in where you are meeting someone energetically? Because that's that moment that, again, it doesn't feel like you're trying to force the spring, if you will. You're recognizing and identifying what is precious, that precious space and the merged manifestation goal between you. And you're doing everything to ascertain whether there's enough there to be able to build a true, worthy, energetic connection. While for masculine and feminine energy, deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, your concentric circles have effectively merged. That's that moment that the two merge, the energies combine into a singularity point, which is what we're seeing here. Because again, it's not that these energies aren't in a space that they don't have their own distinct desires or their own distinct like manifestations, but on the whole, it's that moment that it doesn't feel like anything that you're moving towards is taking you away from that direction. That's the beauty of coming into alignment with an energy that's in alignment towards you. It doesn't feel like there is a struggle in terms of which way to go, because you're just deciding how best to proceed on the path that you've both effectively identified is the path that you're moving on. So it's that moment that feels like that easement point that allows you an ability to almost, again, try to take on more, try to overcome bigger hurdles. And we see even now, like there's a little bit of that energetic quality that is occurring right now in the divine union frequency as it relates to trying to decide what best to handle next. So even there, that sense of like overcoming, like that sense of like identifying like what is the difference between the merged energetic defined definition point towards what you're both trying to manifest versus what you yourself are internally trying to manifest. So these are energies that are, again, almost working on two different planes, the plane of the self and the plane of the counterpart, but at the same time not feeling like those are disparate conversations. They feel like they're in agreement. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here the Chariot. So a lot of progress happening right now during, I got to tell you, I know that Taurus season was a slog. I know a lot of that energy felt like you were like pushing the boulder up the hill, but this is that moment that we're seeing. And even now, what we like about this is, I have to stress, the last like week or two, we did feel like that sense of overwhelm, things moving too quickly. Feel things are moving like back on an even keel right now, right? We see that a lot of this has to do, this work today has a lot to do with just that feeling of moving forward, moving ahead with those plans, feeling that sense of smoothness that is effectively taking over. Because again, masculine and feminine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, deep in the heart of the divine union frequency right now. A lot of that work that we're seeing, this is a lot of intentionality that is occurring, particularly in the places and spaces, in feeling a lot of those plans being energetically put into motion. Right? A lot of this energy right now within the divine union, they spend a lot of that, and we see it like a lot of that Taurus season, a lot of that planning, a lot of that preparation, a lot of like that work ahead of time, if you will. We see even now that is almost facilitating that movement forward right now. So a lot of energy, just taking a lot of, I want to keep articulating this because this is the only difficulty that I'm seeing for some of the energy deep within the divine union frequency. What may feel more surprising to energy outside of the frequency just feels like balance coming in. It just feels like that progression point, because this is that moment that we see that within the divine union frequency right now, a lot of the energy is just feeling like that sense of, I want to say, certainty. Certainty and stability, that confidence that one feels, that is creating that sense of like pushing forward right now and activating on a lot of plans, that feels more about like letting the energy around you kind of catch up, if you will, to what you are, like to the direction you've already been going in, to the direction you've already been moving in, if you will. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into the divine union frequency, this is the energy that is trying to discern how much possibility exists in the space wherein you and another's manifestation goals overlap. Because even now there's that energetic equivalent of working, and this is why this work right now for the energy coming into divine union is so particular, because this is the energy that is recognizing the difference between what you feel that you can do energetically together, like in that overlap space, right? Versus what exists outside of it. And so even now we see that this is a lot of selectivity that is potentially occurring right now for energy that is potentially looking at moving forward with another energetic counterpart. Because this is the energy that's trying to ascertain, I'm going to put it like this, if what your differences are, if the ratio of your differences is too great to counter, like if that is too great, if it counteracts like where you merge, then that could be some energy that's potentially slipping back into separation. But if there are energies here that are looking towards what is and is not possible, and they're feeling like the space in between is good, the places outside are totally doable, and that is that moment that feels like it's taking you away from your manifestation goal, rather potentially that same element of surprise that we see that is being navigated by the energy coming in the heart, deep within the divine union frequency. That is the energy that is effectively now identifying and saying to themselves that feeling of positivity, because there's that moment that almost feels like a bit of an energetic breakthrough, because this is articulating that a lot of the energy right now may have looked between them, their manifestation goals and another's, saw that overlap point, looked at what was outside of it, and said, you know what, there's enough here to create something real and sustainable. While for the energy that is in separation, the observational point in asking for a manifestation goal, and either again receiving it but recognizing that you guys want different things, and that's okay, immediately healing, even in that moment of being able to articulate and amplify and recognize it sooner rather than later, feels like a breath of fresh air, because you're seeing someone who's experiencing or showing you all of the qualities of characteristics that you would aspire and desire to see with someone who desires the same manifestation goals as you. So this is almost the energy that feels like, in a way, they're feeling the validation point in experiencing something that's affirming their own journey, because they're seeing the energy that's almost there. They're seeing the energy that's already expressing the qualities and characteristics of what it is that they're trying to seek. Or these are spaces and places, if there was a desire brought forth, if there was someone building a new connection and they articulated what a manifestation goal was, and there was hesitancy there, or an inability to express it, this is not the energy, I'm going to tell you, this is not the energy of patience. We're not in Taurus season anymore. This is not the energy of patience. This is the energy of just kind of taking what they see, recognizing it, and moving onward. But even in that ability of not building on assumption or potentiality feels like a breakthrough for a lot of the energy in separation, because it's observing and seeing the change is within you. It's within your own self and how you're navigating situations that don't feel like they're in alignment to you. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today. We've got 2 cards popping out for our fourth card. We've got here our 10 and our 10 of Swords and its upright, and our 2 of Wands in its reversal. And that is simply, again, that breakthrough point for a lot of the energy in separation. Sometimes a breakthrough point is simply recognizing, being able to move away from something at a faster rate, recognizing something, identifying it, being able to proceed further, just not requiring yourself to like move towards something to go through the full experience, almost having that moment of insight and saying, if I don't see that manifestation goal there, I know that that's something that is already showing a point of caution. This is the energy that feels like, again, they're effectively they're allowing something to move away from them, but it feels like they're doing so for the right reasons. This isn't the energy that's trying to introspect as to why something isn't appearing. This is the energy that is effectively affirming to themselves that if something isn't being communicated, it's not there. If something isn't being communicated or articulated, then they're just taking that at face value. And that is the energy that is effectively, in a way, feeling the relief in doing so, because that is following the energetic standard through which that's not even the energetic standard that they're putting on others. That's in alignment towards the energy that you're giving your own self. A lot of this energy in separation right now, masculine and feminine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, is simply affirming the commitment to themselves and saying, if someone cannot match my frequency, and when I say match frequency, I don't mean lowering one's frequency for another. I mean, if you're holding an energetic standard, if you're doing that work to share a manifestation goal, and someone is not showing the ability to do so in the same degree, that is the energy. That's just saying, they're just not where I am. That's just not there. And that's not the energy that's sticking around to try to inquire why. That is the energy that's not feeling that sense of rejection or overly internalizing a situation or circumstance that is happening externally. That is the energy that is feeling a liberation point in recognizing what is happening around them to a higher degree that allows them to proceed forward. And that ability of looking at something and saying, wow, if this had happened before, I would have been struggling with myself. I would have asked myself what I was doing wrong instead of asking myself the simple question of saying, am I looking for something that's not there? That is the energy that feels, even in that moment, that they're having a personal breakthrough and they're holding their own energetic standard, even as they're energetically moving away from something. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, this is why so much of this energy right now is being more adaptable. Because some of the energy right now, and I will say there is some energy that was moving into divine union right now that is ascertaining and feeling. I told you, if the ratio of where your manifestation goals match is outweighed by the difference point, even in that modality right now, there may be some energy that may be departing from one another, but they're doing it in the best way imaginable, because that's that energy that built upon the expectation or assumption that something could change going forward that might create a better sense of alignment. While for the energy right now that is doing that work, even being able to speak to one another and communicate the difference, that what you're effectively doing is not just abandoning your own manifestation goal, right? You're not just abandoning your own manifestation goal. You're able to adapt because you suddenly realize you're in alignment with an energy where some of the thing you were trying to manifest was actually built upon a fear and not wanting that fear to reoccur. And almost being able to say, I don't need that part of the manifestation because I can see by which encountering you, part of my manifestation has already arrived. This is the energy that feels like they're changing their manifestation goal, but what's really happening is that they've manifested what they wanted to manifest, and they're actually building a new manifestation goal. Sometimes it can be hard to see or recognize that that's happening. So that's what's happening for some of the energy right now coming into divine union. While for the energy that is in the divine union frequency, this is just the energy that's starting to reach, I want to say this is like a refinement point for a lot of the energy deep within the divine union frequency right now. Because energy at the heart of the divine union frequency right now, it is not the question about what you're trying to tackle. It's not the question about how much you're trying to set forth right now. It's about the limitation vector of what you can actually energetically accomplish. There's only so much time there's only so many hours in the day. Like, this is the energy that is recognizing that, like, the energy in the divine union frequency is like, I must sleep. Like, that's the energy that just identifies and recognizes, not desiring to spread themselves too thin. So we see that that is why that energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, is doing so much work to prioritize, to recognize what needs to be tackled. A lot of planning today is what we're effectively seeing, because there's that moment that we see that things are progressing forward. So the activation point on plans that are coming into fruition, that is almost reigniting the ability to continue forward in that way, because that's that moment that feels like that sense of recognizing the value of being able to put a plan in place that helps you in those moments when you feel that uncertainty in terms of what direction to go in. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here our 8 of Swords in its reversal. We love to see this card in its reversal right now. I'm going to just tell you, I feel like a lot of the energy right now deep within the divine union frequency is just kind of like feeling a sigh of relief, because it's not the fact that there aren't uncertainties, right? It's all about that ratio effect. So we see even now that a lot of the energy within the divine union frequency is almost amplifying to themselves to a certain degree, and saying all one can do is everything one can do. And that is why we see so much of that energy utilizing so much mindfulness in where they put their time, effort, and energy. And I gotta say right now, even now, there may be some difficult conversations that are potentially happening in the frequency of recognizing what feels like it is the best energetic use of their time, seeking efficiencies right now, and potentially needing to step away from things that they feel are not, again, meeting that ratio of being able to show the most benefit from where they're putting their time and effort and energy. Because this is, I want to say, this is a bit of the energy in the divine union frequency, trying to get like the biggest, like, I want to say like the biggest energetic bang for their buck, if you will. But that's that moment that feels like there's a lot of care and intentionality that is being recognized there, because that is the energy. This is what it means when we talk about being like, energetically mindful or working with our energetic hygiene. That's that moment of really feeling the intrinsic value of our energy that immediately amplifies our own ability of where we put it. Because when we value our energy to a very high degree, there never feels like there's enough of it, and you become very conscientious of it, right? Because you want to be able, because you need it in other spaces and places. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into the divine union frequency, what we're effectively identifying right now is a lot of this work that we're seeing to a certain degree has to do that same level of discernment, if you will, that same level of mindfulness is being put into play specifically due to a lot of this energy that is looking towards the possibility of a new energetic connection. These are energies right now that are really putting a lot of care and discernment. And I have to stress this. You understand what we're seeing here. This isn't energy that is looking at like where someone's status is. They're not looking outside of the self. They're looking intrinsically. They're trying to investigate intrinsically where the other person is. They're looking very carefully to say to that energy, what are your hopes? What are your dreams? What are your aspirations? What are you seeking in a counterpart? These questions are what are showing the energy that's moving in that direction. Even the asking of the question is showing the mindfulness of how the energy in that specific place recognizes and moves through the world. So we see even now that ability of being able to speak freely towards that is almost the energy that is assessing. They're looking carefully at where they find another, not from a judgment place, Not like looking and like moving the abacus and deciding whether it's like what the cost benefit is in coming into counterpart. That's the energy saying, are we in alignment? Do we have the same desires? Do you care about the same things that I do? Where do we not meet? Because these are energies right now that are doing this work for themselves. And it feels like even now in the recognition point of seeing and encountering another and feeling the fact that someone's on their journey, it's that moment of really wanting to see if there's something positive there, because that is the energy. And for some of this energy right now, that is the feeling like you have come across your manifestation goal. You just might not necessarily, much like any good manifestation goal, you might not necessarily have expected it to arrive in a certain way, which is why this energy is doing so much of that investigation point and trying to ascertain what feels like it is in alignment in terms of where they match versus what feels like it is there a bridge too far there? Is there something that feels like it's not in alignment? Right? And that's that energy that doesn't feel like they're withholding in that. Why would you ever withhold in that modality? That's that moment that almost feels like that expression forward, because that is that building upon one another to be able to recognize and almost feeling that energetic excitement that feels like you're connecting dots, that moment where you feel like everything you say is almost being met, like it doesn't require perfection. It almost feels like that moment that you're building connection. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in separation, a lot of this work that we're seeing that is happening here is coming through in circumstances and situations wherein if you're not seeing that, the energy is just moving away from what feels like it's not in alignment with them at a much more rapid pace. And I have to say right now that for a lot of the energy, doing that, recognizing the personal breakthrough that you're potentially having in your own perception, in the way you're perceiving something and how you're moving, seeing that in a way feels like it is a breakthrough point, which is why the energy almost feels like it's liberating, because that's the energy that recognizes that this may have been a space or place that you would have started to get hard on yourself or felt bad about yourself and said, what am I doing wrong? Instead of saying, I'm just in the wrong place and I should go, right? Like if you walk into the wrong place and everything around you is wrong, you don't say to yourself, what am I doing wrong? You say, maybe I'm in the wrong place. So we see that for a lot of the energy right now, if they're trying to move forward in that way and they're articulating on their manifestation goals and they're not seeing it like come back to them, this is an energy that's interrogating and saying, what am I doing wrong that the energy isn't bringing forth the manifestation goal? This is the energy going, that energy doesn't want to give their manifestation goal to me. That's an energy that either doesn't communicate as I do or they're not ready. But regardless of the reason, the ability of not not putting that burden of like work on the self to try to start self-interrogating as to why, but rather just accepting what you're experiencing. That is that moment that feels like, in a way, you're rising above it. You're moving forward and you're recognizing and you're perceiving yourself doing so in such a way that it feels like that amplification, because it doesn't feel like you're not getting towards your manifestation goal. It feels like the no that's moving you towards your yes. Continuing to get clarification right now between our Four of Cups in its reversal and our Page of Swords in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with the Knight of Cups in its upright. For masculine and feminine, this is a different experience in separation. Feminine energy is just accepting. They're not forcing the spring of the masculine. This is the feminine energy that's just recognizing and saying, the masculine energy that desires the things that I want, I'm not going to have to force that spring to hear the masculine tell me what they want. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This is the feminine energy that's reaffirming to themselves and saying, I'm manifesting the masculine energy that's able to talk about their energetic feelings, that isn't going to make that feel like it has to be like, shaken out of the box like a box of Cracker Jacks. It's just going to be there. Like that's the feminine energy that's reaffirming themselves and saying, that's the feminine, like again, that sense of pickiness is almost the feminine being like, yes, this is the feminine energy getting more picky on their manifestation goal, which is the feminine energy saying basically the masculine energy that knows what they want and has healed their own emotional self enough to be able to articulate that desire. That's the feminine energy saying, I'm not going to have to worry or fear about missing that because it will be self-evident. because it will be so, because that's the feminine energy reaffirming and saying, how could I miss it? That's the feminine energy almost reaffirming their manifestation goal and going, if I'm manifesting masculine energy that knows what they want and says what they want, and they've done enough work to heal to talk about how they're feeling, that's the feminine energy reaffirming again, going, how can I energetically miss it? How could I possibly miss it? And so that's the feminine energy utilizing that sensitivity point and almost saying to themselves that that's the feminine energy amplifying and saying, my goal isn't to go towards a masculine and try to pull it out of them. My goal is just to say yes or no. Is it there or is it not? And this is even the feminine energy that's, again, amplifying that feeling of the no that moves us towards our yes. Because everything that we say no to, we are saying yes to something else. So we see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy doing that, that is that feeling like even if you're stepping away from a potential connection where you're not seeing that ability, this isn't the feminine energy that's holding themselves account. Like they're not holding it against themselves. They're reaffirming their commitment and saying, I'm saying no to that because I'm saying yes to the energy that can do so. And that's that feeling of the energy, like feminine, almost coming into that point of saying, when I say no to something, I say yes to something else. Well, for masculine energy right now that is in separation, if you have accomplished this, if you have gone through all, and I know you're out there, masculine, if you've gone through all that work, because I know how hard this is, if you've gone through that work of overcoming your own fears, that silk to steel, being vulnerable and open, then the gift that comes through with that is also the recognition that when you do so and the feminine energy does not receive it, you're not taking it personally. This is the masculine energy in separation that's healed enough to recognize that if a feminine energy can't come forth with a manifestation goal, then that's typically not because the feminine energy is trying to reject the masculine, so much as it is an amplification of a feminine energy. That again, these are either energies that have spoken openly about their manifestation goals, and this is the masculine that says, my ability to speak openly about my manifestation goals has rendered a feminine that's able to do the same, and I recognize that we want different things. Or this is a masculine saying, I am articulating my manifestation goal to a feminine, and they do not show an ability to. I think that's because the feminine's still trying to hold on to something from the past, and they're not ready to let go of it. And either way, that isn't the masculine in separation holding the feminine, holding that personally. That's the masculine, again, moving through an experience and observing something and feeling confident and compassionate in their ability to move forward, because that's not the masculine that says, I'm going to stick around and try to pull something out of the feminine that's not there. That's the masculine saying, when that feminine energy is ready, they know where to energetically find me. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, this is why there's a little bit more of that energy of feeling like that like discernment, and there's a bit of an excitement building here, right? Because if these are energies that have recognized that there's an overlap in your manifestation goals, and now you're just trying to see if there's any leeway to like increase that, that is the energy that is effectively feeling that sense, even in the communication of such, that feels like there is a beautiful like harmony that's building between the counterpart energies, because these are energies that are effectively communicating on things that are very difficult for others to communicate upon, right? They're being very open. And this is the energy that's almost finding a new sense of flexibility, wherein they're encountering the new potential counterpart and they're articulating something along the lines of, I love the way you think, right? This could be the masculine saying to the feminine, bearing in mind this isn't based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, I love the way you think. And what's the feminine saying to the masculine? I love the way you feel. Do you see? These are the energies that are complementing each other, and they're doing that work, and the reason they're able to facilitate doing so is because they've both been doing the work on the self, pushing their own envelopes into comfort levels of places or spaces that may have initially created discomfort in them, but they've been trying to overcome their own energetic hurdles. Feminine energy, being resilient enough to articulate what it is you desire from the masculine. Masculine, having the vulnerability to receive it and also to experience and articulate with vulnerability what your aspirations and dreams are to the feminine. And these are the energies that are effectively now like building something very significant, even in the spaces that they might not necessarily be in perfect alignment. While for masculine and feminine energy, deep in the heart of the divine union frequency right now, this is the energetic equivalent of feeling the amplification of moving towards your manifestation goals. Because those moments where you feel like you're in perfect alignment with someone, it doesn't feel like you're moving in opposite directions. It feels like you're just motivating each other forward. That's that momentum we were talking about, because that's that energy that just feels like, again, the only problem is not having enough like energy to put to that, because that's the energy that's moving in a direction such that even assisting the other doesn't feel like it's pulling them off their own pathwork. It feels like their paths have merged to such an extent that they're like almost feeling like they're unified. Like that's that moment that feels like, even in the framework where you're moving towards another's like goals, it doesn't feel like it takes you away from yours. It just feels like it's the same, because these are energies that are in alignment. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Page of Swords and our Chariot. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Temperance card. I like to see this. This is really important, because I have to admit there has been a bit more of a temperamental quality over the last few days with some of this energy. It's right here with our Page of Swords, right? There's been, it's like, I'm telling you, it's like a lot of that Gemini type of energy, which can be like, it can feel very frustrating, like little minor inconveniences, little subtle things that may feel like they're creating a little bit more of a volatility space energetically right now. But this is characteristic of this time period. So we're seeing even now that, what are these energies doing? They're recognizing the energy deep within the divine union frequency. Even those minor inconveniences feel like they pale a little bit. They become energetically easier, because this is the energy that doesn't feel like they have time for the distraction of even putting any effort or frustration into an inconvenience, right? This is really like, this is, when I talk right now, this is like the divine union frequency working to smooth the road. Really, it's just working to smooth the road. And a lot of that has to do with the sense of the energy within the frequency. Feeling a minor inconvenience or going through a little bit of an energetic hurdle, but then feeling re-amplified to just navigate beyond it. Even better than they typically would, because that's the moment of the energy feeling the shift in priority that makes the minor inconvenience feel like it pales, because that's the energy of looking at the grand scheme of things and saying, is this really something that is worth my time, effort, or energy? Or is this getting me, like, is this just taking up too much of my space as I move towards a certain direction? While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into the divine union frequency, that pickiness is actually what you're focusing on. Because that pickiness is identifying now, looking what, there's like a bit more of that, because this is the energy that's trying to see if there is that ability there, if there is that like future there, right? So that's the energy that is actually being more picky, right? Because they're coming into the divine union. And so this is the energy that's trying to recognize the difference between something about another quality or characteristic, something about another person's life, something about another person's like experience, like what that ratio is, because this isn't the energy that says that everything needs to be energetically perfect to go forward. But this is the energy that is working really hard to remember that we don't build towards the assumption that something is going to get better in time. That's the energy that accepts where they find someone and saying, even if that is not something that'll change, even if that is something that'll be there for the long-term persistent future, this is the energy that is navigating and saying to oneself, does that feel like something that is energetically comfortable? Because I'm telling you right now that a lot of the energy right now moving into the divine union frequency is reaffirming to themselves the point of not building towards potential or assumption, building towards reality and possibility. Reality and possibility dictate that you can enjoy the moment that you're in while also feeling excited about the possibilities of what could happen in the future. Whereas, again, building towards assumption and potentiality is not being necessarily happy with where you are, but hoping that something might change later that would make you more energetically comfortable with it. Those are very different energetic feelings. If someone's feeling more of that, they're probably going to slip back off into separation. They probably already are. While for the energy that's feeling that sense of, again, amplification of excitement and possibility, this is a lot of energy that's potentially starting to feel that flexibility towards their manifestation goals, because it's that moment of someone saying, are my manifestation goals, am I adapting my manifestation goal? Or is what is happening, my manifestation has arrived and I'm creating new ones? While for the energy right now in separation, this is why the energy is not being picky. They're not sticking around. They're not being patient with a new energetic connection, because this is the energy in separation that's affirming themselves and saying patience is the gift we give someone after we ascertain that they're worthy of building, of having our patience. Like, that's the energy that's effectively saying not putting the cart before the horse. This isn't the energy that's not saying that there is an adaptability point, but recognize how the energy right now coming into divine union is now being adaptable because they've recognized the possibility of having shared manifestation goals. This is the energy that's recognizing the difference between energy that may say, well, you just have to be patient. One day maybe I'll give you my manifestation goal, versus the energy that recognizes that the energy that knows what they want doesn't hold back their manifestation goal and say, well, this isn't the right time to tell you what I want. The energy that knows what they want will say what they want because they know what they want. And that's the energy that's just effectively, again, saying that's not the energy that's almost putting the end, like this is the energy in separation saying I'm putting an end to giving energy that I don't have any energetic connection to patience for something that should be a requirement. That's the energy that's reaffirming themselves and saying a manifestation goal is not an achievement. It is a requirement to build an energetic connection. And that's all the energy, masculine and feminine, is saying right now in separation that feels like it is motivating them forward at this time. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Chariot and our 10 of Swords in its upright and our 2 of Wands in its reversal. One card, please. Clarification coming through right now with the King of Swords in its reversal. It's a little bit harder for the masculine energy right now. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Because I need to stress this right now. For some of the energy, this masculine energy, if this is masculine energy walking away from potentially new connections that they were starting to create, this is a masculine energy that almost sees the ability to potentially move forward right now with some of those energies of feminine, especially if this is feminine that is only showing the inability to articulate upon a manifestation goal. This is the masculine energy potentially saying that the possibility is there. Masculine may even be looking at that being like, I could take that feminine energy with me. Like I could just pull them forward, because in their unknowing, like they're it's almost like they're in that place of energetically seeking. But this is the masculine energy that moving with in their healing vibration is saying not like that. Because that is the masculine. It feels like that's not a place of doing so with a place of integrity. Because this is the masculine that, again, if this is a masculine, it feels like they're not seeing a feminine energy that's healed enough from a past experience to be able to articulate upon their manifestation goal. This is the masculine almost looking towards themselves and saying, I would not be the right type of person to try to lead that energy away from something if they weren't necessarily ready to. Because that's the masculine remembering past lessons, wherein, again, the masculine may have thought that they and the feminine were on the same page, only to recognize and realize that openness from the feminine was really an amplification, not in being moving from with masculine from a place of like optimism, but almost the feminine energy like moving in a place or space of recovery or not being energetically ready. And that's the masculine energy that almost says to themselves, I don't want to be in a space, in a place where I feel like we're moving in a certain direction And then suddenly feminine says, you took me off of my path. And that's why the masculine, even healed masculine right now, it feels a little bit harder because the masculine's almost like potentially moving away from what they're hoping could be a possible connection with feminine, but saying not like that. And even there, that is a huge milestone and achievement for a lot of the masculine energy and separation, because that's the masculine energy recognizing their own sense of integrity coming to the forefront and self-correcting even in that moment. While for feminine energy right now in separation, this is hard for the feminine because to separate from masculine without an ability to articulate manifestation goal, feminine recognizes that there is a modality here wherein this could be a moment where they and the masculine share the same manifestation goal, but the masculine does not have the energetic courage to amplify it. But this is also the feminine that's reaffirming to themselves in that moment and saying, if that's the case, feminine can't fix that. That ability of coming through our own energetic courage to be able to say what we mean and mean what we say, that is a quality and characteristic. The feminine saying, my patience doesn't make the masculine more courageous. That's something that the masculine needs to find from within, because if not, that's just a moment that's the feminine recognizing that that's the vibration. They have to assume that they can't make that assumption, because the feminine going, maybe they'll get braver, is the moment the feminine says, I'm building towards potential again. I'm building towards potential and what I don't see to help mitigate what I'm experiencing. So even there, that's the feminine that feels like they're doing so from an act of energetic compassion. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, this is why we see even now, there's something about that modality that requires a bit of a trust moment. Because even if these energies are being more adaptable right now, they're really trying to see what they can create in the space in between. They're also carrying with them the anxieties and fears of the past experience, right? For masculine and feminine, these are moments or modalities where they're expressing what their hopes and desires are. But they're even at a point right now where they haven't had the time to be able to really show one another that they're in that space or place where they are good to their word, right? And even here we see that is very difficult, because masculine potentially recognizes and realizes that feminine's own trepidation, they're navigating, they're trying to heal a connection with feminine, wherein this is the masculine that's healed, feeling like they have to carry the weight of a masculine energy that was not leading from integrity, because that almost becomes a feeling of frustration for masculine, because that's the masculine almost has to navigate forward with feminine in such a way where they have to hold the weight and space for the unhealed masculine that's integrity may have created wounds in the feminine, which you can't necessarily tell someone, I'm not like that. There's only one way that you can do that, and all you can do is show it. So we see even now that that's the masculine energy. Even in this moment of working through those manifestation goals, in articulating and amplifying to feminine that this is not a state or space of wanting the feminine to change their manifestation goals in order to facilitate a connection with masculine. And this is where we see that there are potentially a lot of explanations that are happening or communication here, because if this is feminine that feels like they're both making those adaptability points, this is feminine almost observing in that healed space to a masculine saying, I'm not changing those manifestation goals for the sake of this energetic connection. There's almost a feminine saying, I recognize that I have some of those manifestation goals because I'm coming from a place of holding wounds. And that's the moment that the feminine even may be saying to the masculine, I'm shifting my manifestation goals right now, because if I'm encountering masculine that's open and empathetic, then that's feminine almost saying, my manifestation's here. And now I'm recalibrating because I'm experiencing something that I haven't energetically experienced before. While for masculine and feminine energy, that is deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, a lot of this work we're seeing right now is the result of a lot of the work on the self. And we see even now, for a lot of the energy moving in this direction, that sense of momentum it doesn't mean that everything is perfect, right? Even now, this does amplify and articulate that, like, this is the energy that's recognizing and expand and working through both a lot of the potential changes that are happening from being with counterpart energy and needing to make those necessary changes that may feel like they're surprising the energy outside of the divine union frequency with suddenness, even though this is something that feels like, the energy that's experiencing that doesn't feel like something sudden here. It feels like they're just moving in a way because it feels like that's that feeling like everything is right. Why not energetically move in that way? But we also see here that a lot of that energy is also navigating through their own doubts, their own fears, their own wounds. For feminine, that's a lot of like that energy that's working right now. And this is why this energy is moving so rapidly, because even in that moment, it doesn't mean that the feminine isn't still dealing with experiences from, again, masculine energy that due to lack of integrity may have caused some of those wounds in the feminine in the first place. Or from masculine, having to experience any place or guilt or feelings of frustration from how you may feel like you didn't meet your own like energetic mark from the past. These are the energies that feel like those burdens get lighter when in harmony with one another. I told you, these are not energies that expect each other to be perfect. These are energies that feel the full weight of being able to heal as they continue forward on their journey. Continuing to get clarification, and that is not something that is built upon like that necessity to heal, but being able to hold the energetic wounds of the counterpart in such a way that even at their worst, they're their best. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 10 of Swords in its upright, our 2 of Wands in its reversal, and our 8 of Swords in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our 7 of Pentacles in its upright. So that's why we see even now, I keep telling you, I keep getting time is moving a little bit. I want to say time is moving like a little bit wonky right now for some of the energy deep within the divine union frequency. Because that's that moment where there's like, it almost feels like the energy outside the divine union frequency is feeling the suddenness of energetic shifting. But the energy within the divine union frequency doesn't feel like anything has changed. In fact, the reason they're moving with such an amplification is it feels like they've discovered they've discovered their own energetic home. It feels like they've come into that state or space of finding themselves via the counterpart energy. And there's that moment that when that occurs, it feels very like energetically affirming for the energy within the union, but can feel a little surprising and shocking for energy outside of it, because that's that moment that it may feel like something is happening very suddenly that is hard to explain, but it feels more for the energy within the frequency of the union of like something that's like been building, growing, and that now only others can see the surface of. Right? It's like the tip of the iceberg effect, if you will, right? Like when the flower pushes itself out, you didn't know there was anything there, but then boop, there it is. It's a little bit of that type of energy we're seeing right now for a lot of the energy deep in that frequency. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union frequency, this is assessing the ground. This is looking towards one another and feeling that sense of excitement and possibility, even adaptability that is coming through. And some of that adaptability, and this is why that's not adaptability, this doesn't feel like someone who's abandoning their manifestation goals. This is the energetic equivalent of being like, I think I just reached my manifestation. If this is the energy that's seeing that, they're like, but they're feeling that surprise, because that's the difference of like what you are asking for and what you're receiving, but also saying to oneself, this is actually it, right? So we see even now, like that is that energy that's not just throwing themselves into something willy-nilly and saying like, oh, you're like who I manifested. No. Like this is the energy that's really putting in that slowness. Right? Because when we care about something, we don't rush in very quickly. We start moving, and this is interesting because this is even the masculine energy that feels like they're starting to slow down in that process, because this is the energy that's almost saying there's something really special here. I don't want to rush ahead and do something that might energetically damage what we're creating, right? So even here we see that these energies are starting to build a mindfulness, not in terms of like how they're thinking or how they're perceiving or how they're creating something. While for masculine and feminine in separation, this is why the energy is not sticking around if there isn't an ability to articulate a manifestation goal here. This is the energy that's saying, I'm manifesting energy that has a manifestation goal. Like a lot of that energy right now has just like reoriented their own manifestation and separation, saying, I'm looking for someone that wants to grow what I want to grow, that wants to build what I want to build. And this is the energy in separation reaffirming themselves and saying, someone who wants to grow what I want to grow, someone who wants to build what I want to build isn't going to be tight-lipped about it. They're going to just articulate to me that that is what they want. And that is the energy that, again, now we're starting to see some of that Taurus energy coming in saying, I'm not moving off of that. That is not an expectation. That is not a hope. That is a requirement. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Knight of Cups and its upright and our Temperance card. Beautiful cards in combination. One card, please. Clarification becomes a lot easier. Like a lot of the energy right now, I got to tell you, some of the energy right now in separation, even if they're potentially moving away from something right now, that they started to feel the hope that something was going to happen there. That ability of not overly internalizing something that is happening externally is what is allowing the energy right now to really facilitate and move towards what feels like it is in alignment towards them, versus anything that may feel like it was creating too much grief, too much hostility, too much fear. And that's that moment of, again, the energy in separation reaffirming to themselves and saying, the energy that desires what I want will be able to articulate on it. Because that's that understanding of saying that the ability to articulate upon what we want isn't a commitment. It isn't a promise to another that we're offering that to them. But it does show a sense of energetic care, of mindfulness in how one protects and presents one's own energy. Because that is the energy that recognizes and says, the energy that's in alignment with me would also not want me to waste my time. The energy that's in alignment with me wouldn't want to build a false place with me and then only later reveal that their manifestation is different than mine. This is the energy that says, I am manifesting the energy that recognizes that the ability to articulate upon a manifestation goal is not an achievement. It is a requirement. And that energy, even now, feels that sense of relief, because that is the energy that's either saying to themselves, it's there or it's not. It's not ruminating or agonizing as to why. It's just articulating and saying it's there or it's not. And that is that moment that feels like that gift of relief, because that is the energy in separation, removing the energetic burden in saying, why am I not good enough to receive it? With assuming that it's there, instead of just coming into the point of breakthrough and saying, what if it was just... And that's how the energy is now healing from the past, because if these are spaces or places where in the like masculine or feminine didn't receive that, that's the energy going, that's the relief that comes. It goes, what if it wasn't me? What if it was I was waiting for something that wasn't there? And that's that ability that immediately allows for that amplification of healing, even in separation. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into the divine union, this is that work. This is that breakthrough point that a lot of this energy is experiencing in seeing and recognizing energy that has that openness, that has that ability to communicate in that way. And so what we're seeing right now is, for a lot of that energy, this is the energy that's looking at a potential counterpart and seeing that ability to articulate upon, just the ability to articulate upon openly. That is a lot of the energy coming into divine union, even if there isn't perfect alignment there, that is almost feeling that sense of easement, because that's the energy going, I'm experiencing my manifestation. I'm seeing what it is that I was seeking in that other energetic connection. I'm receiving it here. I'm getting that. And even in that moment, it feels bittersweet, Because what occurs in those moments that we receive something, it reminds us of the moments that we didn't. And so this is also a lot of that energy potentially having breakthroughs about past circumstances and situations. If something that was asked for is being delivered so easily, it suddenly immediately heals those spaces and places where it wasn't, because that's the energy that's almost reaffirming the same message that we see the energy in separation, which is, again, if someone doesn't reveal a manifestation goal, it's not a place or space to overly internalize it. It's the better question to ask is, am I looking for something where something is not? Was I staying in that situation seeking something that was not there? Was my assumption creating unnecessary pain because I couldn't accept the reality of it? Because this is the energy that's experiencing in the present something that they may have been seeking in the past that immediately allows a moment of energetic healing. While for masculine and feminine energy, deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, this modality that we're seeing right now, this ability of feeling that energetic relief, these are the energies that are moving towards one another. They're not moving towards one another hoping that something will improve down the line. This is the energy that almost feels that sense in the present. This is the energy that feels that sense of alignment in the moment. And that's that energy that even like while they may be moving towards their manifestation goals, there isn't that feeling of feeling that need to rush that process. It more just feels like that sense of trying to ground what you're feeling in the tangible space, because this is the energy. What happens when you come into that? Your manifestation just becomes one of preservation, of holding on, of stretching that out. Because that's that moment that doesn't feel like you're rushing to the next thing or to the next thing, because it's that feeling of just inhabiting the space wherein you have that open up, you have that amplification of energetic freedom that comes through when you're not agonizing or worrying about the energetic counterpart. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Temperance card in combination with our King of Swords and its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with the Devil card and its upright. Masculine and feminine energy right now. I have to say, this has a little bit to do with some of that temperamentalness that we saw was coming through. I've seen it. Like over the last few days, there's been a lot of that, like those little, I want to say those little temperamental flare-ups, right? But even here, we're recognizing and identifying that a lot of that energetic equivalent there, navigating through those frustrations, even for the energy within the divine union frequency, there's that moment that feels like the amplification point in recognizing that something that would have created more of a frustration in the past, would have like allowed for that feeling of overwhelm. Like it's almost like water off a duck's back, right? Because that's that moment that when you're prioritizing, when your focus is focused on something, then it pulls you away from anything that doesn't feel like it's helpful or productive, right? So even now, a little bit harder, I will say, for the masculine energy right now. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. But we see that ability of keeping perspective is what helps, right? It helps the masculine energy, because even when those moments happen with the masculine energy, masculine looks at it more as a personal circumstance to overcome, right? Because that's not the energy of the masculine. It feels like they need to prove themselves. That's the masculine energy that almost comes into that point of recognizing that it's almost like the masculine within the divine union saying it's not about them. Like it's not about them. It's thinking about that broader perspective. It's thinking about that bigger picture, right? So we see even now, like that's that moment of the masculine that's building or reorienting or creating that sense of themselves. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that the masculine energy is healing a lot of those perspectives on how they were thought they were supposed to be, or how they thought they needed to be for others versus who they truly are. And we see even now like a lot of that energy is moving through that experience right now of feeling healed in that modality, because that is the energy of the masculine that is almost like allowing themselves a level of vulnerability instead of reactivity when moments of frustration occur that feel like, to a sense, they're reaffirming masculine's own commitment to their path work. While for feminine energy, seeing and recognizing a masculine in that modality as well, like this is the feminine that's working to heal their own experiences, because if these are spaces and places where in the feminine may have felt like they experienced masculine that wasn't in their point of integrity, it can become very easy to want to over-fixate on it. But we see even now that this is a lot of that feminine going through that energetic process of letting go, not wanting to focus all their time, effort, and energy on what feels like it was unhealed, because the more you focus on what's unhealed, the more you don't have time to work on your own energetic healing. So we see even now like a lot of that energy doing that work and repairing the past, or working through the frustrations of the present via that feeling of just experiencing the presence of the union frequency that helps kind of build that sense of like holding or maintaining that standard. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, this is that mode. This is why it is so important to be able to really ascertain and recognize and know oneself, right? Because when you're moving towards another and you're articulating about manifestation goals, it becomes very easy to potentially, relinquish a manifestation goal just for the desire of being with an energetic counterpart. And that's why it's so important that we're able to recognize and identify and do that work on our own selves, to know ourselves well enough. Because we see even now like that conversation, that building forth in such a way, it requires a resiliency in the feminine, right? It requires an ability of focusing between what feels like it is right for the feminine versus what feels like it is not. And the same with masculine, right? And so we see both of these energies going through that process, and even now articulating and almost saying to one another, I'm not changing. I'm not becoming too changeable just to be able to maintain or create the possibility of a connection with you. But I'm orienting. I'm looking at my manifestation goal and I'm asking myself what feels like it's actually at the heart of my manifestation versus what is something that was in my manifestation to protect me from something that occurred. And we see even now like that ability to navigate through that in such a way, it is even now amplifying that sense for a lot of the energy coming into the divine union frequency of like what could potentially grow or change in time, because this is the energy that feels like even in those moments of lack of misalignment, it's not creating a place of disruption. It's creating a place of observation. And so even that feels like for feminine, like it's healing something from the past, just being able to have a conversation in that way. While for masculine, it's coming into a level or degree of vulnerability that you may have energetically feared in the past, but then immediately feeling the support from the feminine that's also healed, that is again re-amplifying your own determination in terms of like coming into integrity by being energetically vulnerable. While for the energy in separation right now, this is why even now this could feel a little bit more frustrating for the masculine and feminine in separation. Because again, for the feminine energy, even in the modality of seeing and recognizing, giving the masculine the benefit of the doubt if they're stepping away from them because they don't see a manifestation goal being presented, even in the place of the feminine looking towards masculine and saying that masculine's too afraid of their own emotions to be able to articulate how they dream, this is the feminine that feels frustrated or energetically disappointed in the masculine in that modality, because this is the feminine that recognizes that when we don't lead it from integrity, sometimes that can come from a place of fear. Sometimes, a lot of the time, we move out of integrity. There's all kinds of reasons to amplify the fear that may have led us to move forward in that way. But this is more of that feminine re-amplifying and saying, I want to be able to move forward with the masculine that has overcome their fear. Because a masculine energy that has not overcome their fear is controlled by their fear. A masculine energy that has not overcome their fear is controlled by their fear. And so we see even now that a lot of that feminine energy is almost reaffirming that and feeling like that act of compassion of not moving towards a masculine whose fear is preventing them from articulating what they aspire with the feminine. This is the feminine almost looking at it, that sense of energetic compassion, of saying, I'm giving you the opportunity to find yourself, to find your way out of your own energetic fear. While for masculine energy, this is a modality and a situation where you may be feeling like you're overcoming your fears in this moment. Because if this is a masculine that sees the possibility of connecting with a feminine that doesn't share your manifestation goal, and you're saying, but not like that, not like that, that's a masculine that's reaffirming their own commitment to themselves. That's the vulnerability of saying, like, that's the masculine saying, coming into that place of compassion. That's that moment that feels like that moment of seeing that you could almost slip out of your own integrity in that moment. And that's the energy of the masculine who observes that and says, I could move forward to feminine like that, but I would fall out of my own integrity. And that's the masculine whose integrity, even in separation, is guiding them forward from the lessons of the past, right? Like that's that healing gesture. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our King of Swords in its reversal and our Seven of Pentacles in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through with the Knight of Wands in its reversal. And that's what's really beautiful with a lot of the masculine energy and separation right now that's going through that process. This is the masculine energy that's effectively affirming to themselves that if they see a feminine energy right now that they were starting to build with, but there was an inability of the feminine to articulate upon what their manifestation goals are. This is the masculine energy that's effectively affirming and saying to oneself that that's a feminine energy that's still too caught in the past. That's still too like hoping to find that point of healing from the past here. And this is why we see even now like some of the masculine energy having a little bit more energetic patience there, because that's a masculine energy that almost feels that sense of saying to oneself, when the feminine's energy is ready and they know what they want, they'll be able to come towards me and articulate what that is. So even here we see that that's the masculine energy that almost like is taking that like if you know that care, that sense of energetic care with that affirmation of saying if that energy is ready, they know where to find me. While for the feminine energy, this is the feminine energy being a little bit more realistic in separation, because if this is a feminine energy that's not seeing a masculine able to articulate a manifestation goal, this is feminine energy that keeps saying that's either because the masculine is too afraid to articulate it, or there's something about their manifestation goal that they don't wish to share with the feminine because they don't think feminine will be in alignment with it. And this is more of the feminine reaffirming and saying, I'm choosing the energy that knows what they want and will be able to amplify what it is that they're trying to grow. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into the divine union, this is the conversation about what it is that you're trying to grow. And we see even now that for the feminine energy, just the ability of the masculine to come forward in this way feels like it's healing, not even in the space or place of the potentiality of what could happen moving forward, but the gift of that being received in so many spaces where the feminine didn't receive that in the past. That is that moment that feels like the feminine is like, it's like this is the feminine feeling like even in a moment of misalignment, they're receiving their manifestation goal, because they're seeing what could result, the conversation that could result, the positivity that could result from being in that expression. That feels like that feeling of fulfillment, because they're seeing it energetically present. Even if it doesn't feel like there's that perfection point in terms of what you want to manifest in another, there's that sense of relief and release that occurs when you see something coming through with the qualities and characteristics that you're identifying and know you need, even if the manifestations aren't matching. While for masculine and feminine energy, and for masculine the same, Like there's that huge amount of relief, because that's the energy both of the feminine realizing and experiencing something that heals them from the past energetic connections, while for masculine, this is that moment that feels like you have overcome your own fears and your own anxieties, and you're seeing what could result. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, this is that modality that we're seeing wherein you're already working towards those goals. These are the energies that feel that sense of energetic alignment in terms of feeling that sense of healing in relationality to the pathwork going forward. Where one goes from here, like that's the bigger question, because we see even now there's a little bit of this, like some of the energy in the divine union frequency right now is getting a little bit of this like set it and forget it kind of energy around some of the stuff, like some of their manifestation goals, which feels like that manifestation that's kind of taking root and is kind of growing in that way. So we see even now that a lot of that energy is working through a sense of like care and concentration on what to amplify or where to put their energy going forward. Continuing to get clarification between our Nine of Swords in its reversal and our Devil card in its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Eight of Cups in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. Everything just has to do with timing right now. For a lot of the energy, this is why we see even now, this is what's so interesting. A lot of the divine union frequency right now feels like they're moving very slowly. I told you, and which is odd, because a lot of the energy outside of the divine union feels like the energy within the divine union is moving very quickly. And this is why we see even now that sense of like slowness, like that feels like a little bit of that challenge point for some of the energy within the divine union frequency, because that feels like that amplification point, if you will, of where some of this frustration is coming through, because that's that sense of feeling like you need to move more slowly than you typically would. So it feels a little bit like that frustration point, because this is the energy that feels like they want to move more quickly, but their hurdles of like the tangible space are such that they're trying to like work through that carefully. And that's that moment that feels very frustrating, because that's the energy that's trying to be mindful of moving with slowness, even around spaces or places that they wish to move more quickly. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, this is a lot of that work that we're seeing. That is the result of the energy navigating and looking at each other's manifestation goals to ascertain if it feels like there's alignment there, or if you're moving too far off your own mark. So we see even now that this is a lot of energy that's going through that process of assessing both the past and the present to observe energetically, especially if what you're experiencing and feeling is different, whether it feels like it is something that feels like it's moving you in that positive space or place, right? Whether it feels like there's that energetic relief from something, or if you're feeling anxiety about letting go from something from the past, right? So we see even now like some of that energy is trying to ascertain whether seeing and receiving something that they wished for is, and we sometimes have this with manifestation goals. We need to talk about this. That moment of receiving something that one aspired for and experiencing it in a way that is different than one anticipated and expected, that requires a moment of observation of oneself to be able to ascertain if that's how you wanted to continue forward, or if that is an energetic lesson from having received a manifestation goal that feels more like a path of correction. That is something that happens too. While for masculine and feminine energy that's in separation, this is the energy that feels frustrated, because if someone isn't even offering the ability to articulate on what they're manifesting, that feels like the hurdle. That feels like energy that's almost trying to force other energetic counterparts to operate in the blind. And this is the energy that's basically saying, that the energy is making the affirmation to themselves in separation, not to move towards energy that builds a point of obfuscation in relationality to what the future holds, because that's the energy that says, regardless of whether it comes from someone who just doesn't know what they want versus someone doing that intentionally, this is the energy in separation, just rejecting it completely. And by rejecting it, that's the no that becomes the yes. Continuing to get clarification between our Devil card in its upright and our Knight of Wands in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with the Fool card, because if this is energy and separation that went through path work, wherein, again, they created unhealed karmic connections because they didn't have the manifestation goal brought forth, and then by the time it did, they were too energetically connected to someone, and it felt like you were moving in different directions. This is the energy that's saying never again. This is the energy that's just affirming to themselves and saying never again, because this is the energy that feels like they're still in the process of healing those experiences wherein that occurred. So this is effectively just the energy that's reaffirming to themselves. And if there's that moment of moving away from someone at that time, because you're seeing that, that is the energy that feels that like point of positivity in recognizing and identifying, certainly, and saying, I'm not doing that again. And that's that moment that feels like that sense of having learned an energetic lesson that's allowing you to, again, it's not that you might not see or experience that energetic lesson approaching you, but it's certainly creating a state or space wherein you're moving, you're not delving into it, you're just moving beyond it. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is why we see that these energies are having such deep conversations potentially around manifestation goals, because these are the energies that, if they're working through experiencing places or spaces wherein that occurred in the past, this is the energy that is reaffirming and saying to themselves that the gift that they're giving each other at this moment of finding each other at this point, this is that reason why we're saying it's like, I'm glad I didn't meet you sooner, because that's the energy of feeling like this is the gift that they're able to provide one another, because they're both effectively energetically recovering from places or spaces wherein that may have occurred. And this is the energy that even now is either assessing and asking themselves, like, is this the energetic counterpart? Like, is this someone that I can move forward with? Recognizing that it's not exactly perfect at this time, right? We see even now that these energies are effectively ascertaining what feels like it's in alignment to their manifestation goals versus what feels like it's different. But even in that modality right now, we see that those energies are feeling that wash of relief, because just experiencing something in a new way feels like it's that breakthrough point, because that's that moment of newness that almost allows for the amplification of articulating, being able to either create a new manifestation goal because you feel like your manifestation just arrived, or being able to refine your manifestation goal, having encountered or experienced someone who feels like they had all of the qualities and characteristics of someone that you were trying to manifest, but there was something about the way they were coming towards you that didn't feel like your manifestation goals were completely aligned. While for the energy right now, deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, this is the energy that is just feeling the frustration between how they would aspire or desire to move versus like what they truly need to do at these moments. Because we see even now, this is almost like that moment where these energies are so aligned in their manifestations. That's that moment that it's not that you feel like you need to do those things to facilitate path work together, but it just feels like they can't come soon enough, because it feels like they're already here. You're not trying to move towards something to change how you feel. It's just that moment of frustration as you both are in alignment, or you want those things, you just haven't reached them yet. So it makes things more frustrating because it feels like you're holding your own dreams at bay. Final card for today's spread between our Eight of Cups in its reversal and our Fool card in its reversal. One card to clarify is, we've got here our Star in its reversal. So we are seeing even now, like, this is having some of this frustration that we're seeing has a little bit of a different impact on masculine and feminine energy. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. We are seeing effectively that a lot of this work, it has to do with that sense of working through, like a lot of this energy deep in the heart of the divine union frequency right now is working on old wounds. The feminine energy, masculine, we've got a lot of this work here that's happening in relationality to masculine, doubting their own self, right? And also like working through their own passions. Like this is a lot of the masculine energy that's trying to like navigate forward in such a way of like recognizing and identifying or working through. I want to say some of the energy right now, the masculine in the union frequency is carving out new energetic standards for themselves, is actually what I'm seeing here. And a lot of it has to do with recognition on experiencing and exploring your own ability to be vulnerable and working through, I want to say, how one can feel vulnerable, but how one can feel strong. Like there's a lot of that work that's happening right now in divine union frequency. And it has a lot to do with like finding that pathwork of integrity. And that integrity is difficult because integrity is like, you know, recognizing those rules or standards we hold to ourselves, even when it's like integrity forces us to be vulnerable. You know what I mean? Like it's like that like, it's like a lot of the masculine energy, bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but it's like, it feels a lot like personal codes. You know, it feels a lot like trying to put an identity, like this is more of that tangibility that the masculine often needs. It's like putting like some kind of like standards within oneself that feels like it helps orient in those moments that you feel a little bit more energetically weak. Feminine doesn't need it so much. It has more to do with the feminine doubting themselves, feeling that sense of like not trusting their own sense of self, not trusting their own ability, not trusting their own instinct, working through more of that energy of recognizing the difference, like we keep seeing, between an external and an internal issue. And the feminine's own ability to potentially occasionally over-internalize external problems. Masculine energy and feminine coming into divine union right now, a lot of this work that we're seeing has to do specifically with that, like we said, that adaptability point, right? Because there's an energy here. We see that these energies are almost looking to each other and they're seeing the fact that they're starting to become adaptable on their manifestation goals for the other. And this is the energy that is almost like amplifying to one another at the same exact moment, that they're not asking for each other to do that. And that's the energy that's almost amplifying to each other. These energies are almost in the same exact place, saying, I'm not doing it because you asked me to. I'm doing it because I energetically want to. And I know it can look like I am, but I'm not. That requires a little bit of explanation is almost what we're seeing here. Because this is the difference between the energy feeling that sense of confidence that sometimes can almost be that moment of saying, like, it seems like your manifestation goals are changing, versus someone being like, well, it's because my manifestation goals just arrived and that's why they're changing, because I need new ones. Well, for the energy right now that is in separation, this is why so much of this energy right now, if they're not seeing something present, this is like Gemini energy in full effect. They're not sticking around for it. This isn't the energy that's going to be patient or give someone time to decide which direction they're going. This is almost the energy of both masculine and feminine looking towards one another, saying, like, nice to meet you. Do you know what direction you're going in? And if they don't, they go, I gotta go. Like they're just like rushing off very quickly, because this is the energy that, again, is feeling that sense of preciousness. Like this is the energy in separation, becoming very mindful about their own energy and where they expend it, and not wanting to wait or build something from a place of uncertainty and assumption. Feels like how the energy is utilizing good energetic hygiene. Final card, bottom of the deck, is our Four of Pentacles in its reversal. And we see even now, a lot of this has to do with that feeling of not wanting to wait. I gotta say, a lot of this feeling right now, there's a lot of impatience that is happening right now. especially in this across all of the frequencies, right? And so we see even now, like, not allowing yourself to be frustrated because something's not. And I think this is really important to say across all the frequencies. Recognize the difference between something moving in the direction you desire it to versus whether it's moving at the speed that you want it to. Because we see even now that I feel like there's a lot of this energy right now that's moving in a good direction, but that feeling of wanting to like rush the process for some of the energy right now may be creating some states or spaces of frustration and overwhelm. So just be mindful of that. Remember that everything's happening like at the timing that it needs to. Don't let yourself feel like you're rushing ahead of yourself. Just let that patience, like try to embody that sense of patience. I know nobody wants to hear that today, but it will help, is what I'm seeing. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website. Booking on my website is a two-step process. You have to book the reading and pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Also, I have a few different updates that I'd like to bring you guys up to speed upon today. First and foremost, I'd like to invite you to join me next Wednesday, June 19th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern, for our next class on the tarot. It will be focused on the High Priestess. Our previous classes were on the Fool card and the Magician. All you need to do to become a part of that live class is become a subscriber to my Substack, graystrega.substack.com. Your subscription to my Substack will grant you access to that class that we're having next Wednesday, as well as the course materials and recordings for all of the previous classes. So if you missed any of our previous classes, you've got plenty of time to catch up. Also, you'll have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything that we are studying. Also, if you choose to become a founding member to my Substack, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, but you will also receive a one-on-one mentorship class with me, where we will ascertain where you are on your own tarot and spiritual journey, and I'll give you the best insights on how to utilize the classes and your own path work most effectively as you proceed forward. Again, one of the things I try to do with these classes is really create them so that they would be useful to both an absolute novice tarot reader as well as a seasoned reader. There's a bit of something there for everyone. So if you're already joining us there, thank you, and I look forward to seeing you Wednesday. And if you haven't, hopefully I'll see you there. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, you can still become a free follower and be able to stay up to date with our weekly newsletter, any new events or offerings that I may be including. That's a really great way to find me and keep up to date with me. Also, I'd like to let you guys know that we're currently doing a tarot giveaway for a free tarot reading. And all you need to do to become a part of that giveaway is head over to my Linktree. There is a 2-minute travel survey there. Filling out that survey will grant you access to our giveaway. But if you've already filled out the survey and would like additional entries, when I pull the winner for the survey, I'm actually going to pull 2 names. I'm going to pull the individual who wins, and I'm going to ask that person who referred them to take the survey. So if you would like to give yourself more opportunities to win that giveaway, please be sure to take that referral link and send it over to a friend who you think might be interested in also doing a destination tarot experience. I have a few ideas on where we might want to go, but I really would like to get your insight. Finally, I just want to let you guys know as well, I have got a few new offerings that I'm offering my clients. One is mentorship. Mentorship classes are classes that are focused on a study or area of your interest. They can either be purchased on a one-on-one class basis, or if you'd like to purchase a full month, that's 4 45-minute classes each. Those classes take a bit of time to prepare for myself, so I only take a limited number of mentors. You can find that over on my Linktree. I'm also offering for my clients that are seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, weekly tarot insight classes, readings. Those are a package of 4 30-minute readings, 1 per week, at a discounted rate for those clients that are seeking more consistent work on their journey. Again, I want to thank you guys. A lot of these suggestions of things I'm offering are coming directly from my clients. So thank you. And if you have an idea of something you'd like me to offer, feel free to shoot me an email, gravestrega@gmail.com. That said, I hope you guys have an absolutely beautiful day. Please take care of yourselves. Please take care of each other. And we will do this again tomorrow.